My name is Margaret Louise Benton. I'm 82 years old, and for most of my life, I've been known as the quiet old woman who knits scarves for the church's winter drive and hands out peppermint candy to the neighbors' kids. But there's a storm inside me. One I've kept caged since I was 19 years old. I never intended to speak these words. I thought I'd carry them to my grave. But now, sitting in this worn-out recliner, watching my granddaughter prepare to marry a man I don't trust, I can't stay silent. She reminds me too much of myself. Innocent. Hopeful. Vulnerable. Before I lose my voice to age, or my memory to time, I want the world to know what I lived through, because I refuse to let another girl walk into darkness thinking it's love. I was born in 1943, in a small town called Willow Creek, Mississippi. We had dirt roads, 2 churches, and more secrets than neighbors. My mama died when I was 5. My father remarried a woman who never liked the sight of me. I was the black sheep in a home full of locked doors and quiet punishments. I found comfort in books, in Sunday mornings at church, and in the sweet laughter of my baby brother, Charlie. He was the only light I had, until he died in a tractor accident when I was 14. That day changed everything. My father drank more, my stepmother blamed me, and I began to believe I truly was cursed. At 17, I met Gerald. Tall, blue-eyed, clean-cut, and full of promises. He was 22 and worked at the local hardware store. Everyone adored him, especially the church ladies. I was warned he had a temper, but no one ever spoke loud enough for me to hear the truth. I was desperate for love, for escape, for someone to choose me. He did. And I mistook that for salvation. Our wedding was held in the back hall of the church. Nothing fancy, just a white dress borrowed from my cousin, some canned peach punch, and folding chairs decorated with paper flowers. I was 18. I thought I was walking into a new life, one filled with safety and love. What I didn't know was that I was trading one form of abuse for another. On our wedding night, Gerald didn't touch me with tenderness. He treated me like property, like something he had finally won. There was no love in his eyes, only hunger, possession, control. I cried in the bathroom afterward, muffling the sobs with a towel. I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe it was supposed to feel this way. The next morning, he smiled like nothing happened. But deep inside, something in me broke and never healed. It was 2 months into our marriage. I burned his eggs. That's all. I was distracted, thinking about my brother Charlie, missing him. Gerald walked in, looked at the pan, and before I could explain, his hand met my face with a sharp sting. I remember the way my cheek burned. The ringing in my ears. But more than that, I remember how calmly he went back to buttering his toast, as if it was normal. He didn't say sorry. He said, "Don't make me do that again." And I believed it was my fault. That day, I stopped talking so much. I watched how I walked, how I spoke, how I breathed. I thought if I could be perfect, the monster wouldn't come out. But he always found a reason. By the time I was 19, I was pregnant with our first child. I should have been happy. But all I felt was dread. Gerald hated the idea of a baby taking attention away from him. He drank more. Stayed out late. Came home angry and smelling a perfume that wasn't mine. He accused me of cheating, of being a liar, of trying to trap him with the baby. He punched the wall so hard it left a hole, then told me I should be grateful it wasn't my face. I slept with my hands wrapped around my stomach, praying the baby wouldn't feel what I did. My daughter, Elise, was born on a rainy March night. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't felt in years: hope. She became my reason to endure. I became an expert at makeup. Foundation to hide bruises. Long sleeves in July. Sunglasses indoors. I lied to neighbors, to the church ladies, to myself. I slipped. I'm clumsy. I walked into a door. Those lies piled up like bricks around my soul. But worse than the bruises were the words. Gerald knew how to destroy me with silence, with threats, with shame. He'd tell me I was worthless, that no one would ever believe me, that I should be thankful he kept me. One time, he locked me outside in the cold for hours because dinner was late. I was holding Elise, barely wrapped in a thin blanket. She cried until she passed out. That night, I made a vow, I would never let him hurt her the way he hurt me. But I didn't know then how hard that promise would be to keep. By the time Elise turned 3, she had already learned how to tiptoe when Daddy was home. She didn't laugh out loud like other toddlers. She watched. She listened. She hid. Gerald never hit her in the beginning. No. He liked to act like the perfect father when people were watching. But behind closed doors, his words cut her down just like they did to me. Shut that brat up. She's dumb like her mama. One night, she accidentally spilled juice on the carpet. He grabbed her by the arm so hard, I heard something pop. She wailed, and I threw myself between them. That night, he didn't touch her again. But he turned his rage on me tenfold. I went to bed with a split lip, 2 broken ribs, and a silent scream in my throat. I held her all night, whispering that it wasn't her fault. That I would protect her. That I'd never let him hurt her again. But the truth was, I didn't know how. I packed our things while he was at work. Just one suitcase. I took Elise, grabbed the $200 I'd hidden inside a hollowed-out Bible, and ran to the Greyhound station. We made it 2 states over before I heard my name on the intercom at a bus terminal. Margaret Benton. Please report to the front desk. He'd called every station between Mississippi and Alabama. He was already waiting at the next stop. Elise saw him before I did and cried, "Daddy's here." I froze. I knew I'd made a mistake. He didn't drag me back. No, Gerald smiled at the officer, showed our wedding certificate, and told them I had postpartum depression. That I was unstable. No one questioned it. The bus left. And I left with him. That night, he made me watch as he burned the suitcase in our backyard. Then he made me promise I'd never run again. I stopped going to church. I couldn't sit there, listening to sermons about forgiveness and love, while I was living in a war zone. But I missed the sanctuary, the hymns, the stillness, the way sunlight touched the stained glass. So I started praying at night, quietly, in whispers so Gerald wouldn't hear. I prayed for a way out. For Elise to be spared. For strength. One night, Elise caught me kneeling beside my bed. She asked, "Mama, are you talking to God?" "Yes, baby." "Is he going to help us?" I had no answer. Just tears. Because back then, I didn't know if anyone was listening. At 5 years old, Elise said something I'll never forget. She came home from school after a teacher read a story about heroes. She crawled into my lap and said, "Mama, when I grow up, I want to be strong like you. So I can protect you from Daddy." She thought I was strong. She didn't see the woman who flinched at loud noises, who forgot what laughter felt like, who cried behind locked bathroom doors. But I saw her, a little girl already trying to carry the weight of my wounds. That night, I made another promise, I wouldn't let her become me. It was Elise's 7th birthday. Gerald came home drunk. I had made a cake, a lopsided chocolate one, but Elise loved it. She smiled the whole evening. Until Gerald grabbed the cake and smashed it against the wall. Elise screamed. He reached for her. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the frying pan and hit him across the back. Hard. He fell to the floor, stunned. Blood trickled from his temple. I thought I'd killed him. But he groaned. Got up. And this time, he didn't hit me. He looked at me differently after that. Not with love, he never loved, but with caution. I had become dangerous. Not because I was strong, but because I had nothing left to lose. After I struck Gerald, something shifted inside me. I started hiding money again, this time in the seams of old curtains, behind the water heater, even in Elise's broken toys. I studied shelters and hotline numbers scribbled on public restroom walls. I befriended a kind woman at Elise's school, Miss Patty, who noticed my nervous eyes and Elise's silence. One day she softly handed me a napkin. On it was written, "You don't have to stay. I can help." It was the first time someone truly saw me. And I cried harder than I had in years. Elise had a nightmare so violent, I found her tangled in sweat-drenched sheets, kicking and screaming. I tried to calm her, but she clawed at my arms, shouting, "Don't let him touch me again." I froze. What did he do, baby? Tears streamed down her cheeks as she sobbed, He touched me in my room when you were at the store. I didn't want him to. I hate him. I wanted to die. Or kill him. Maybe both. That night, as Elise lay sobbing in my lap, I made my decision, I was going to end this. No matter the cost. I told no one, not even Miss Patty. I didn't trust phones or internet searches. I used the library computer under a fake name and wrote everything by hand. I waited until Gerald's work sent him on a weekend trip to Baton Rouge. I packed only essentials. Elise's birth certificate. Our savings. Some clothes. And I took my old frying pan, for protection or memory, I wasn't sure. When the bus doors closed behind us and we pulled away, I didn't cry. I smiled. For the first time in years. The shelter was hidden, quiet, and smelled of cleaning fluid and stale coffee. Women of all colors and ages filled the hallways, each with a story, each broken in different ways. Elise clung to me that first night, whispering, "Are we safe, Mama?" "Yes," I said, with tears in my eyes. "Yes, we are." The counselor, Marcia, was stern but kind. She listened as I told her about Gerald, about the bruises, the burns, the fear. And then about Elise. Her face changed. She called someone. Then another person. Then another. Within 48 hours, Gerald was arrested. I had never testified in a courtroom. I was terrified. My hands shook. But I stood in front of that judge and looked Gerald in the eye as I told him what he'd done to my daughter. Gerald scoffed. Denied it all. Called me crazy. Then Elise took the stand. She spoke clearly. Strongly. Just 7 years old. And the entire courtroom wept. The judge sentenced Gerald to 28 years without parole for sexual abuse and domestic violence. When the gavel hit the wood, I knew we were free. After the trial, I stared at the courtroom doors for a long time. It was over, but the damage lingered. We moved into a transitional housing unit through the shelter. Elise began trauma therapy. She drew pictures again, some bright, some still dark. But her eyes slowly gained light. For me, sleep was still a war zone. The slightest creak sent my heart pounding. But I started journaling. And for the first time, I wrote. I survived. I cut my hair short. It was symbolic, shedding years of pain. I found work as a house cleaner, then eventually trained as a care aide for the elderly. Each morning, I looked at the mirror and whispered, "You are not what happened to you." Elise brought home a drawing one day. It showed her, me, and a big bright sun. When I asked what it meant, she said, "That's us now. You're my sunshine, Mama." I locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed uncontrollably. Gerald tried to appeal. I had to relive everything again through paperwork and interviews. But this time I wasn't alone. Miss Patty wrote a statement. The shelter workers rallied behind me. My counselor, my boss, even neighbors stood with me. The appeal was denied. But the most healing moment came when Elise looked at me one night and said, "I feel safe now." That was the real justice. I started attending support groups for women like me. I told my story out loud for the first time, not in whispers or broken words, but clearly and boldly. Other women started asking me to speak for them, write letters, support them in court. Eventually, I helped build a community-based program that shelters and supports abused women and their children. We called it Elise's Light. Because even in the darkest storms, children deserve a sunrise. Years passed. Elise thrived. She graduated college, became a social worker. And me? I became a grandmother. When I held my granddaughter for the first time, my body trembled. All the pain I endured, all the fear I fought through. It was worth it for this moment. A fresh beginning. I told Elise one night, "I wish I'd had the strength to leave sooner." She hugged me and said, "But you did leave. And you saved us both." My name is Margaret. I'm 82 now. I was abused, broken, and silenced. But I found my voice. And now, I use it to light the way for others. To the one who feels alone right now. You are not alone. What happened to you was not your fault. The bruises you carry, on your skin or in your heart, do not define you. You may feel small, trapped, or voiceless, but I promise you this. You are powerful beyond your pain. Leaving is hard. Speaking up is terrifying. But healing is possible. And every small step towards safety is a victory. Even breathing through another day is an act of strength. Please remember. There are people who care. There are shelters and hotlines. There are other survivors waiting to hold your hand. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. And you deserve to be loved without fear. Speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes. Your story could become someone else's lifeline. And one day, you'll look back and realize. You didn't just survive. You rose. You overcame. You became the light. Thanks for listening. Like this video and subscribe for more inspirational stories.